Hello and welcome to the Retained Recruiter Show. My name is James.
And my name is Jo, and we apologise for starting a couple of minutes late, but we just wanted to make sure that we had all the technology enabled because we are joined from very far afield by Mike Walmsley. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and great to see you again, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Live via satellite, Jo, from Thailand.
Yeah, that's right. Nice sunny day today out here, as you might expect.
Yeah. Well, good. It's better than it is here in the UK. Look, James is going to give you a proper introduction now, anyway, aren't you, James?
Well, I'll do my best. Yeah, that's big enough. So, Mike, listen, we do appreciate you joining us. We know it's late at night as well, and we've got a really exciting topic to talk about today. And I think it's going to fascinate all of the listeners and the people who are watching both live and on playback. But, Mike, I just want to say thank you from all of us at iIntro. I don't know whether you saw the post today from Plowman, where he went back to 2012 when he was, starting to sort of, go out on the road, so to speak, and showcase iIntro, and it was thanks to you and the Pinnacle Club that you were running at that particular time that actually got iIntro out in front of a large audience. And without you, iIntro wouldn't be what it is today. So that's pretty big, isn't it?
Well, it's nice to know, James, and I think it's a great tool. So well done on your success.
Yeah, and Mike, is that that's how long I've known you? Well, actually, I think I've known you a little bit before because I was a member of your Pinnacle Club, because also through recruitmenttraining.com and all the other things you're involved in. I know that the name may have evolved, but actually, I'd put my business onto your training program to help us sort of make the difference in our world. And I don't really remember this one, but I always talk to people all about this, how we built it up as the road to 300 or the road to Cape Town, because everybody hit that 300k target was going to get a free trip to Cape Town to our annual conference. And you started us on that journey as well, and you introduced me to Plowman.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing how people use the phrase "time flies," but it's nice to look back on the journey. But I'm also thinking now back to November 2022, and it's like, wow, in just 4 months or so, how the world has changed for the better. So clearly, that's part of what I want to talk about today, but also nice to look back on that previous success.
Yeah, well, as I'm saying, we just got a common ground, and obviously you've known Jo for many years as well. So it's good to sort of have us as a little triumvirate on this call today. And what we want to share with people today is really looking at how people can discover, what the impact is of combining AI technology into the recruitment process. Now you're going to sort of share your thoughts and things there. And obviously it's such a hot topic. I was driving into the office this morning at 7:30, listening to Radio 4 because it had some topic on about AI, and I thought, I wonder if I can grab any of that information, share that with Mike. What's the difference between data and knowledge? That's what they were talking about. It all to do with school exams and stuff like that. But I think it's having a massive impact. I think that's what you're alluding to in terms of the impact that's changed over the last few months as we become more and more aware of it.
Absolutely. When I first started looking at this properly in November last year, I was on YouTube every night. And, does that make me sad? I don't know. But I love YouTube for other reasons. But I kept seeing this stuff, ChatGPT. And straight away I saw the potential of it. I actually remember thinking this is bigger than the internet. And I spoke to a few people after that. And you think, people who were around in, 94, 95, when the internet first started to break, and how it changed the world. I think this is bigger. And, about a week ago, I saw that Bill Gates was quoted in the Times saying the same thing. Now, I'm not putting myself on a par with Bill Gates for obvious reasons, but,
maybe you got it from you, Mike.
Maybe you did. I'm so excited about it. I mean, my son, when he was about 13, little boys are like, they're always on gadgets, So I used to take the mickey out of him and call him Gadget Boy. I said, "Hey, Gadget Boy," and then he turned the tables on me and he said, "Hey, you're Gadget Dad," I kind of have turned into a little bit of that, because technology is an enabler, isn't it? It just makes things easier, and finding the right tech is sometimes challenging, particularly in a recruitment business, because you've got a beauty parade of 100 or 200 CRMs to think about, and you might know the 5 big names, but what about the other up and coming ones that could be players? There's quite a lot going on in India at the moment in the recruiting, in the CRM space, by the way, for recruitment. Some really, really good stuff. We're looking at our own CRM in my business, by the way, having our own tech. And also, we built our own learning management system using technology. So there's the whole space is phenomenal. But, for the purposes of today's show, we were going to look at management and tech. So I'm shocked how many people in recruitment are still not using ChatGPT properly. I showed someone the other day and on a Teams meeting, and he said to me, I'm embarrassed. I didn't know this. He had a company of 70 staff. Another one in Australia that I showed him, because we built in our LMS some training programs, AI for recruiters, teaching recruiters how to use AI, teaching managers how to use AI. So I'm showing this gentleman in Australia, and about a week or two later, he said, "You know what? You've unleashed the biggest training initiative ever in my business." So he sees that now as bigger than anything. So some of the things it can do are truly remarkable. Let's take, for example, LinkedIn posts. Now, we all know the value of a LinkedIn post. Somebody I know over here, actually, he said he does hardly any business development. It all comes from LinkedIn posts. So you hear comments like that, and you think, well, am I posting enough on LinkedIn, for example? Yeah. So the next challenge then is, well, who's going to write those posts? Because let's face it, in the recruitment industry, well, I think generally, written English isn't a strength for most people. Okay, that's a fact in recruitment. And that applies to emails, to LinkedIn messages, to LinkedIn posts. But, even if you are good at written English, then finding the time to craft something is another thing. And having the expertise to craft it is the next step, particularly if you're a junior in recruitment. But in today's world, everyone's an expert with ChatGPT. So one of the videos we've created, training recruiters, essentially directs them to, so it says, okay, so let's say you're in Frankfurt and you place full stack developers and you want to project into your marketplace, you're an expert in that. Then go on Google News, which, by the way, not many people go on Google News, or a similar tool. On Google News, it shows the latest news, 1 hour ago, 5 minutes ago, 11 hours ago, So put something like full stack developer market in Frankfurt, and you'll find an article. And then paste that into ChatGPT. And before you do, give it a prompt. So the prompt is key. It's absolutely key to prompt it effectively. So that it gives you a more targeted result. And you're essentially prompting it to be an expert. So it might be something like, you are an expert recruitment consultant with 20 years experience in the Frankfurt market within full stack development. Comment upon this article that I'm going to post into the chat. And comment for as if it's a LinkedIn post, and give me about 300 words. And literally seconds later, it's doing something like this. It's saying, as a specialist full stack recruiter in the Frankfurt market, I've heard rumors that XYZ company and ABC company are laying people off. But the good news is, the up and coming companies are having a hiring frenzy, and that creates opportunities, blah, blah, blah. And it just does it like that from the article. So I'm a little bit tongue-in-cheek when I say this, but the illiterate recruiter is now Shakespeare, and they can do anything.
Mike, that's not ChatGPT, that's Bard.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. Yeah, touche.
So for the people who don't know about Bard, it's Google's version of ChatGPT. So ChatGPT was invested in by Microsoft, billions, and obviously Google got spooked when it came out, so they've fast tracked Bard to capitalize, and Bard obviously can search Bing in real time, whereas ChatGPT currently only goes up to 2021. Although I have found a tool via YouTube which can enable you to search the web with ChatGPT. It looked great, by the way, and I'm not going to endorse it yet because I've not fully utilized it. But my first findings of it didn't work as well as it looked on YouTube. So, but there are shortcuts coming around where you can instruct ChatGPT to search Google properly. And of course, it's going to come, So it's incredible.
So I have a question, Mike, just to jump across there. I've got a question because I agree with you. I've spoken to a lot of recruitment business owners and recruiters about ChatGPT using AI to enhance their performance. And not many of them have heard of it. Not many of them are using it. Those that are using it, or in fact, I had a recruitment business owner the other day who said to me, if I say to all my recruiters, use ChatGPT, they'll sit there for 5 hours on ChatGPT and not actually do anything. So my question for you is, if you were a recruitment business owner or a recruitment manager, because we've got two types of technology, I suppose, that we want to talk about today. One is technology-enabled recruiters. So what can managers do to help to put the right technology into the business that enables recruiters to do their job, but also then learning, technology-enhanced learning. So what can managers do to enhance learning environments using tech and AI? Because I do think, don't you, Mike, that this does need to be managed quite well by the business. Otherwise, all they're doing is just plugging in a ton of tech that's going to bombard the system.
Yeah, totally. It should be an everyday tool. Again, Bill Gates said he foresees that every business meeting will have ChatGPT in it. Things that what I would do with managers. I'm a massive fan of micro training. Mm-hmm. So I was doing micro training 25 years ago by accident. I just stumbled across 30 minutes a week learning lunch, put it in your DNA. And improve one skill per week in a team of 4, you've got 200 improvements. It's pretty simple. Okay. So with ChatGPT, I would do that. For example, I would show recruiters how you can paste a CV into ChatGPT and ask it to write a candidate summary, and it'll do it in seconds, better than the recruiter can do. Now, the recruiter writing the candidate summary is probably going to take 20 minutes to do that. So, of course, it needs a little bit of editing, and you've got to use the right prompt. I've come across, by the way, Prompt Perfect, which is a paid-for service, and you can use it to give you better prompts so that you get better results from ChatGPT. Definitely worth a look at.
Really? So that's great. So another piece of technology to enable the technology that enables the recruiter to perform at a higher level. We had someone writing, so we talk about candidate briefing packs. We had a recruiter practicing the other day to write me 5 interview questions that I can ask in an interview situation that will help to demonstrate these competencies. Bang, 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 and off it went. So you're right, CVs, candidate executive summaries, LinkedIn posts. It's phenomenal what it can do, James.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mike, picking up your point about dropping in the CV, you can also drop in the LinkedIn profile as well and ask it to create an executive summary. Like that. I think the important thing there is, and I was talking to Paul Hickey, co-founder of iIntro and MD of Grass Greener Group, about this last week, and he was putting forward he was just completing a shortlist for a search, and he had 4 or 5 candidates, and he said, writing the executive summaries is a critical part because it's you selling the candidate. And as recruiters, we all know how important that is. He said, when I'm normally doing it, he said, to be honest, I start repeating myself, different candidates. I start using the same vernacular or certain phraseology. He said, whereas when I drop these into ChatGPT, he said, it might have taken me, you said 20 minutes, it might have taken him half an hour longer to do each one properly, to do it for a full search. All of a sudden, this has popped up. He said, yes, I have to edit it. Yeah, sometimes just for the Americanization because he's in the UK and wants to put S's in instead of Z's, but that's irrelevant. He said, but I guess I've got to edit it, but it's just such a different job of actually putting it together. And he said the impact, because he shared this with the client, and the impact from the client was wow, and obviously the client doesn't know it's from ChatGPT, or eventually everybody's going to know, is that a ChatGPT written thing? But that's where we're at today. Because there is a bit of controversy, isn't there, around ChatGPT? This is the thing I picked up on the news today, saying, it's based on data. an estimate of what words follow, which shows why it's so clever in what it does. But knowledge is something different, and that's the bit that you can still bring to this part, because everyone's sort of saying, when you come back to, I know you can talk a little bit about content later, or you mentioned it earlier when you created a post, everyone's going to be doing the same thing. So the controversy is, have we all become experts in something that we're not really experts in? How controversial is it for me to write that I'm an expert in JavaScript developers in Frankfurt when really I'm not? So I think you've got to, it can be a bit of you've got to be careful in terms of what we're doing.
I mean, the thing is, the way I would look at that is, if I see the article and ChatGPT writes my commentary, then it's my job to be confident that it's my voice, that I'm out. But the way I see it is, it's going to come pretty soon that you can put a CV into AI, whether it's Bard or ChatGPT or any other, because there are emerging ones, and give it a job spec and say, what percentage match is this? And that's going to happen, So therefore, the soft skills of recruiters are going to be more and more important. The smart thinking, the problem solving. So managers have got to be mindful of what's coming. I've got to manage people effectively to use tech in the best way. I mean, I think your point there, Joe, was, will they be all like, playing on the internet like people used to do in the olden days, all day when the manager's out, they're playing on ChatGPT and asking it to write a poem or something, But I think that's management. It's about effective management, and it's also training. Like the guy in Australia, he said it's the biggest training exercise he's ever encountered. But I've been using AI to create content. I mean,
let's talk about that for a sec, Mike. Talk about AI in general. So we'll come away from ChatGPT for a second. Let's talk about AI in general, which it's being quoted as the fourth industrial revolution, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how to train and coach their teams, because you've been working on something that's really, really exciting.
Yeah. I just broke up a little bit there, Joe, but I got the gist of it, I think. So AI for content. Yeah. So I've got a lot of call recordings of, going back a long time. They've all been done legitimately. And, to interpret the call recordings and turn them into training material is actually quite a task. So we've been using tech and AI to create what we're terming reality recruitment videos. So these are actual conversations. Now, I think I might say that anyway because it's my business, isn't it? But I think it's revolutionary because there are so many experienced recruiters who are not fulfilling their full potential. However, they claim they don't need training because they're already experienced. With a reality video, let's say it's a video about client referrals. And by the way, there are some free videos on recruitmenttrain.com where you can play around with these things. And one of them is client referrals. So why do recruiters not get many client referrals? They don't know how to ask for them effectively. They should be it's easy to get client referrals. You don't wait for them as a recommendation. You seek them out. So, so we built a video of a person asking, talking to a client, taking a vacancy and laying the groundwork with one question whilst taking the vacancy to get a client referral. Okay. So it goes through the actual conversation and then it's only a 5 or 6 minute clip. And then the presenter comes on and says, what I'd like you to do now is pause the video and brainstorm how you can use the type of information that the recruiter just gained in order to get access into XYZ Corporation, which is the company mentioned. Okay, so what it does, from a manager's viewpoint, you can facilitate this session live with your team, and there's no escape. You can't say I'm experienced and therefore I don't need training. You've actually got to use your brain and say, this is what I would have done in that situation. And once you've exhausted your own thinking, the manager presses the play button, the rest of the flow continues, and better way of doing things is then revealed. And by the way, they may come up with a great idea of their own when they're brainstorming, which of course is no bad thing. So we've used tech to accelerate the building of these, and we've got 200 in the pipeline, covering every situation, every candidate, every objection from candidates and clients, establishing a need, closing, candidate control, client control, the whole works really. So that's been a big breakthrough using tech in my business.
I think, Mike, as well, what you're saying there, you've created a video. This isn't about a talking heads. You've used AI to create it, haven't you? Or have I misunderstood that?
We've used AI for part of it, yeah.
Yeah, which is a fascinating take in terms of what it's doing. So I think it's just showing you the power of what's happening and what's out there. And I think the bit, Mike, come right back to the beginning, what you said. The world for you changed last November. And I'd say, but for some people, the world is about to change today based on some of the things that we're talking about, because we're all playing this game of catch up. And I've heard about it for months as well, but it wasn't until I spoke to you a month or two back that you sort of opened my eyes to it, because I just heard the chatter and the noise and hadn't necessarily sort of engaged my brain to think I need to look at this. And that's why, Joe, we're coming across people who said, oh, I didn't know about this, and like these people in Australia, oh, I didn't know about this. Well, don't beat yourself up about it, but jump on this particular bandwagon would be the view, sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe.
Go on, Mike.
I was going to say it's how you use it. It's you can use something, but it's how you use it. So, going back to earlier, it's the prompt. So I had to deal with something recently, and I almost got some legal advice from it. It was, you are an expert HR advisor with 20 years experience doing high level, blah, 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 blah. Write a letter pertaining to blah, 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 blah. And it did it. And it did
Oh, we lost him there, Joe.
An absolute cliffhanger.
Oh, here we go. Start again, Mike. Start again. We lost you for about 30 seconds. Oh, well, here we are. Wait for Mike's sound to reconnect. Nothing better than live shows when the satellite delay is no longer a delay; it's just a disconnect.
I'm sure he'll be back. He'll be back in a minute.
So, Joe, what's Mike's sorting his sound out in terms of it's interacting, trying to see how this sort of can help people run their business, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. We were. I was looking into this earlier on actually because I thought there's got to be some statistics out there. The amount of actual time that a salesperson spends selling. There was a great statistic that I saw, and I looked at the piece of research that said 34% of a salesperson's time is actually spent selling. So what are they doing with that other percentage of time? And these are all things that you can get technology for. So, enabling recruiters. We had a guest on this not too long ago, didn't we? They were talking about technology-enabled recruiters. So things like, obviously, you've got your ATSs, you've got CRMs. We're talking about marketing, chatbots, but also just helping recruiters to streamline those those non-fee earning tasks that they can do. So that's something that businesses could look at. But then secondly, I think it's this enhanced learning experience that you can give to people. I mean, we all use on demand. We've all got a learning platform and we put our content on there, and that's great for people. Like you said before, Mike, it's micro learning, it's small bite-sized pieces. They can pick it up and drop it whenever they want to. You can put assignments and tasks and things on there. One of the other things that I think we're looking at now, like you said, is this technology-enabled role-playing, VR role-playing, anything where you can bring AI or technology or VR into a situation that gives recruiters experience without them having to do it in front of actual live candidates and clients, or of course recording those live situations and then getting them to use that sort of reflective experience.
You're so right, Joe. The call recordings, brilliant way to coach people. You sit down with them as a manager, you listen to the call, you play it, you let them analyze it first. You don't say anything. You just coach them. Let them come up with improvements, exhaust their own thinking, anything else, and then you reveal something better. Very powerful. The problem with it is, a 5-minute call recording takes about 20 minutes as a one-to-one with one person with one call. because you stop and start it, you play and you coach. So, you know, the reality recruitment videos that I mentioned, they're actual calls. So, but they're cut down in size to illustrate key points. You know, so that applies not just to experienced people, because I did mention they're mainly for experienced people, but rookies can finally feel what it's like in a call, rather than having to theoretically learn and then sit next to somebody. They can experience 50 calls and understand good pathways and bad pathways, and that's all through tech, really.
Yeah.
I think Mike, in terms of, you know, one of the headlines for today was, you know, what management and AI technology combinations can do to create high performing teams. And what we're saying is, you know, coaching, training is really, really important, and it's now easier to access than ever before. And bringing this technology enablement that Joe's talking about, bringing this into the workplace, it's about helping your team. And I think you've got to help managers have the focus, say, what can it do for me measurably? You know, what can I do if I use this technology? What is it? Is it a time saver? You know, we spoke about, you know, when you create management summaries, there's a time saver. What else can you do? What's the opportunity cost of that time saving for the business? That's how you can help them. Joe was talking about the fact that 34% of people's time is spent selling. Well, what's the other 66%? And I think it's about giving people some of that time back to say, use it. Don't just say, oh, it made my life better and I can just sit with my feet up. Use it in your business. Make it, you know, make it a driver to say, this is how we can increase the performance. That's where we need to get to.
Yeah. Well, do you know, when I've done management training, one of the principles or little useful things I've found is called a how book. So it's almost like my science book, my maths book, my how book. And the how book is personal brainstorming. So, you know, you might have a notepad for a meeting where you jot things down. Use an iPad or something if you're that way inclined, but separately is my how book, and my how book is for managers. So, you know, how do I get more performance out of Jimmy? You know, how do I win more business as a team? How do I build better KPIs that are more effective? It could be anything. Okay, so it's like personal brainstorming, and it's actually very powerful, because, you know, you could get up in the morning having your breakfast thinking, oh, how do I improve Jimmy? Is a bit of a problem. Anyone could do this, and some people might just do it randomly. But the beauty of the how book is it's on one page of the book, and you're constantly adding to it and building upon that thinking. Okay, so it's a great way of brainstorming with yourself, and you can involve other managers. But I did a management training session recently, and I introduced them to the principle. I said, well, let's use AI to add to that. You know, how can I turn around and underperforming salespeople? Bang, 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 bang. You know, you've got all these, you know, fresh ideas coming in. So it is a time saver. But the point of managers training people and coaching them, I mean, Microsoft and Google did independent blind studies on what constitutes the best sales managers. And right at the top was coaching ability. And the thing I've found out in my experience of working with over 300 recruitment CEOs, very few managers have got good coaching skills. Apple call them super coaches. They prize it. You know, so managers are doing on-the-job training, which isn't training. It's just a bit of feedback here and there. They're not doing effective one-to-ones because they skip them or they don't do them effectively. So there's a whole piece around improving, you know, coaching and management in order to get the best out of tech. And I think Joe made a great point earlier about you can use tech and then people run wild with it. You've got to manage it. And the missing piece to pull everything together, I think, is performance management properly done. You know, where it's a 15-minute one-to-one with 4 members of my team once a week, and the time is sacred. And 15 minutes is usually enough. Sometimes you need a little bit more, sometimes you need a little bit less, but it's performance management. So let's say, you know, somebody says so there's metrics. There's 4 metrics, and one of them is, let me just think. Okay, so not enough new business, not enough new business, whatever that is. So In the one-to-one, I'm exploring it. And it might be that my advice to the person at the end of the one-to-one is to do a LinkedIn post, to use the same example from earlier. Now, so the connection between tech and a one-to-one and managing people is the manager who's equipped with this knowledge can direct people in a more effective way. So I think that's a big thing. Some of the old stuff is actually new stuff for most people, in the sense of proper one-to-one.
Because keep it simple as well. We all know the KISS model, don't we? Keep it simple. And also with you saying there about metrics and management, we all know, you can't manage what you're not measuring. And I think that's another place where businesses really need to look at, is measuring, using technology for data analysis, data regulation, but harvesting this data so that they know what's being done and what isn't, so that they've got metrics to manage by. I know we're bang out of time, aren't we, James? Really, but there was a question that Rob and Plarman in the chat. There's like a sub chat going on, Mike, in the comments on the group. And I just mention that I do think, Rob, you are right, that where we say Google it or ask Alexa, there's a new version in town now. It's Rob says he doesn't say Google it anymore. He says ChatGPT it. But there's a question in there, isn't there, James, about ChatGPT alternatives?
Yeah. Well, it's all too that Rob said he's had to sort of he couldn't get on the wait list, so he's gone for the paid version. He wants to know whether you've seen any difference, Mike, between the paid version and the free version.
Just more reliability. In peak demand time, the free version can go down. So I haven't noticed any better results, really. The better results come from more targeted prompts. But the paid for version, it works every time.
Okay, so that's the difference on that one. So I think that's good. I think when you just talk about the management issue there, Mike, in terms of I think where we can use AI, because a lot of people are coming to management for the first time, of course, and actually there are things when you say create a review plan for me, you can actually ask ChatGPT to help you with some of those materials, as well as training materials that are out there from people like you and from ourselves, with things like the Retained Recruiter Academy, as well as your sites that do that. There are lots of things that we can do. But what I just want to say in terms of we should wrap up next. I'm just conscious of people's time in that one. What we want to do is help people understand this tool is out there. It can help you create great content. But what you said, Mike, is the prompts. I think there's the word we use. The prompts that you use will indicate the quality of the result you get. So you've just got to practice that. As a couple of people, I think it might be Todd or Rob has said in the group, there are podcasts that you can watch. I know, like Mike, as you said, you were up there late at night becoming, gadget dad, just watching YouTube videos all night or whatever it is. We normally accuse our kids of that. But that's part of that learning exercise. If you do a little bit every day, you soon can become very, very familiar with it. So we'd highly recommend that you sort of get engaged with that one and think about the impact it can have on your team, to improve their efficiency and their performance. That's what it's about, how you can help it drive performance by helping them save time, to give them more time to go out and sell. That's sort of things that we can do rather than doing the admin.
James, on that point, I get excited about it. So when I see an idea on YouTube and I think, God, I can't wait to use that. I can't wait to use it.
Yeah.
It will be the same with your staff. When you show them this stuff, people often think that a 25-year-old is ahead of somebody in their 40s and 50s. It's often not the case, because they've not done the hard yards to learn it. So you'll be, when you're showing your staff this, some of them will be on it, but the majority of them won't. Their eyes will light up. They'll see the time saving, and that's where you can unleash the power, when you get other people to start doing the thinking with you.
Yeah.
Mike, you mentioned a tool that could be used to create better prompts earlier on. It was a paid for one. Was it Prompt Perfect? Yeah, Bryony, brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Bryony. Yeah, good comments there. So listen, Mike, thanks very much for joining us. Know how late it is at night, and we said we can keep you too late from your nighttime routine to get back to YouTube. So on behalf of all of us at iIntro, thanks very much for joining us today on the Retained Recruiter Show.
One of my catchphrases is just
so
just very quickly is on recruitmenttrain.com. There's a link that says free training, and it is genuinely free. So there's 4 reality videos on there. Just use them to train your team, facilitate around the free videos. I think there's client referrals, counter offer, dealing with a busy candidate. One other thing, can't remember. So they're only about 4 or 5 minutes each. And if you do use them, please drop me a bit of feedback in LinkedIn. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
great.
sure we will. Mike, was it prompt perfect?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Brian. That's perfect. So listen, on behalf of the three of us, it's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from me, and all the way from Thailand, Mike. It's goodbye from you as well. But thank you so much for coming to us today. It's been insightful.
Great stuff. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
See you. Bye.
Yo.